Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. The increasing number of the death of Nigerians in the hands of herdsmen, whose origin is still a subject of conjecture, has been the source of increasing tension in the land. The friction being generated by this continues to reflect on the country's socio-political barometer and, quite worryingly, keeps widening the fault lines among various ethnic groupings in the country. In recent weeks, various stakeholders have been speaking out against this reign of terror. Over last weekend here in Lagos, there was a beret movement, orange, I guess that's the color, right? Not red, yes. Across the city, led by a former presidential candidate during the 2019 general election, Omoyele Sowore, who now joins us to talk about this new movement and now intends to drive home the point about the government needing to sit up with a view to nipping this threat to national security in the board. Omoyele Sowore, good to have you again on the morning show.
Thank you so much for bringing
us.
Yes,
welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You and some other Nigerians have launched what you call a revolution protest, and I see that you have the beret.
Yes.
The color is orange. What is the inspiration? Could this be the Ukrainian revolution, the orange revolution in Ukraine, which came also shortly after elections in 2005, or is the inspiration Bobby Wine, the Ugandan who chooses red beret as his own symbol of protest against the incumbent Ghana government?
I think when you see the beret, it's a signal that people have decided to rebrand and go more militant regarding their position on either national or international issues. And when I mean militancy here, if you realize that after the election we changed some of our positioning, and we started using revolution now, because that election showed that simple elections can no longer save Nigeria or improve Nigeria's democracy, that people must take their destinies in their hands, and that we deserve or must have a revolution in this country, particularly if we don't want war, because a lot has been done. As you mentioned, this is the most difficult time to be a Nigerian. This country is not safe. And I know people use the word generically, headsman. The way I describe it is that it's the metaphor for how people feel about being under siege at this time. So you can divide headsmen into political headsmen, economic headsmen, people who are raping the economy, who are destroying the country, destroying the country's democracy. And when it was not headsmen, they used to be called unknown gunmen. Before it was that people who were kidnapping were referred to as Niger Delta militants, regardless of where they were carried out. I think there was a time Niger Delta militants apparently went to Kaduna to kidnap the secretary to the government in Kaduna State, one high official, and drove the person to Warri. So, but now we're using headsmen. But the truth is that this country is not working, and people who are leaders of this country are incompetent, they are wicked, and they are not willing to change their ways. And they've shown clearly during the last election that they cannot even accept democratic change. They cannot allow free and fair elections to happen. They allocate votes to themselves. And there's hunger, starvation, and insecurity in the land. Government has failed. Nigeria is failed as a state, and until we take that necessary big step, not next level, Nigeria will not attain its potential. And that's why we are changing our appearances, and we are changing our tone, and we are urging and mobilizing people around Nigeria to come together and do it one time.
So tell us about the march. Was it members of AAC or other people? Tell us what the agenda is. What is the ultimate objective? And you are also quoted as saying that the march was a rehearsal for what is coming up in the next few weeks and months. What should we expect?
That's correct. We are mobilizing people across the country. We are having conversation, and a date will be released as to when the first will happen in the series of marches that will eventually lead to what is our expectation, that this country will return to its owners, the people, no longer being managed by the owners of Nigeria, who have decided that our lives don't matter, and that when we take decisions, it doesn't matter. They decide what to decide for the country. So it's up to them to decide when this will be over, but it's up to us to decide when enough is enough, and we've reached that point. We've reached a breaking point.
You were a presidential candidate of the African National Congress in the February 23 presidential election. And, you know, at the end of the day, you got about 32,593 votes. Now, is this an expression of frustration with the outcome of that election? What you could not get through the ballot box, now you want to mobilize people to the streets to get it. Because at that time, you kept saying that, look, the people in government in Nigeria have failed the people. And you had a slogan, you know, to take the country back.
Yes.
So the ballot box failed you. Now you want to take the country back through the streets. Is that the agenda?
No, I'm not. It would be wrong to say that this frustration. All of us are frustrated with Nigeria. You know, I ran an election, and they allocated some votes to me. You know, there was no election. Yes, there was no election. Everybody knows that. That's the reason why we're stepping up now. That it is clear that voting is no longer going to solve the problem in Nigeria. So taking it back at that time is still taking it back now, but stepping it up to make sure that there's an urgency attached to it, because nobody's safe in this country anymore. Nobody's got jobs, nobody can feed, nobody has hospitals to go to, nobody can sleep at night, you know, without your two eyes open. This is the worst place to live in the world today. It's very sad, but we cannot continue to lament. We can't continue to agonize. We have to organize. And
I want to know what you mean by there was no election. And also in your manifesto, when you were running your campaign, on the area of security, you said you would, as president, have increased policing and ranching as a solution. So can we now discuss that? What do you want the government to do? Clearly, the government is failing to do what you...
I am not here as a government advisor. You know, I brought out a lot of ideas during the election that they stole, but couldn't implement. That's why we are in this mess now.
Yeah, but what would you like to see? Not as a government advisor, as a citizen of Nigeria.
I'm not here to tell you what I want to see. I'm telling you what I want to do.
Should. There needs to be solutions.
The solution is for us to have a revolution. That's the solution right now. That's what I'm here to discuss. I'm not here to, we're not going back to the campaign. We've campaigned, we've tried our best. They didn't allow elections to hold. Everybody has come to a conclusion that there was no election. The elections were badly mismanaged. And what you just did is that people went to vote at the polling units. They moved the elections to collation centers and allocated themselves votes.
Well, what you are trying to do, that's call out the people onto the street.
Yes, to what end? What is the ultimate purpose?
The ultimate end is
revolution has a purpose. What is the purpose?
Is for the people to take back their country and take back the democracy.
And what would that look like?
What would it look like when it happens? You know.
Well, we have seen it in Sudan. We have seen it in Algeria. We have seen it in Egypt. We've seen the Arab Spring. We've seen the Occupy movement elsewhere. I guess that's what you are trying to do. Now, it may have worked in other places. How optimistic are you that Nigerians will follow you and go to the streets? Because if you are able to achieve the momentum that we saw in Algeria, Sudan, Arab Spring, and the Occupy movement, maybe you'll be able to make a difference. You think Nigerians will come onto the streets? Nigerians
have been coming onto the street. In fact, in 2012, Nigeria had the biggest Occupy movement in the world when Occupy was the main thing. So, but we failed at that time because there was no proper planning, I would say, or an anticipation of where it should go. Because even revolutions deserve to be macromanaged after the success of the revolution. And that's where we are different in this case. The person who is sitting in front of you has tried to be president of Nigeria. That means I have an agenda in place. I have people I can work with, and people are working with us, and people are hearing us all over the world. They have come to the conclusion that enough is enough. And with regards to whether Nigerians will follow me or not, that is not what I'm here to preach. I'm here to say this is what we want, and I'm sure that there are a lot of Nigerians out there, millions of Nigerians who are frustrated at this point, who no longer have confidence in our leadership, in the leadership of this country, and they want a different country. And we're here to give life to that. And we're calling on all of them, wherever they may be, that we better do this one time so that we don't have to do it in pieces, because we find ourselves in pieces the way things are going on. Nigeria is on the precipice. So to avoid war, let's go for a revolution. Instead of going for a prolonged war, let's go for one-day action that will save our country. And that's what I'm preaching. That's what I'm here to talk about. And I'll continue to talk about until we achieve it.
No, I ask you to question advisedly, because, you know, in Nigeria, you know, activism, yes, is one thing, but being able to mobilize the people is another. When you try to mobilize people in Nigeria, they throw up questions about ethnicity, about motive, about, religion, right? So what strategy do you have in place? Or are you just doing this alone? Or you have some other allies who are buying into your narrative and who truly believe, either in the political class or the professional class, that the time has come, truly, as Sowore is insisting, to take back Nigeria?
Doc, you know me for close to 30 years. And I was one of the student leaders in this country that mobilized against the military. At times, we had over 1 million people on the streets of Lagos that drove the military out of power. I'm not talking about just one military general. Started from Babangida, we drove him away. Shonekon came, not military, but a stopgap measure. We drove him away in 82 days. We stayed on the streets in this Lagos and all over the country for 82 days. Abacha came, one of the worst military generals in terms of repression. We took him out. So this is not new. I'm not a newbie in the business. But I'm not going to be coming on TV to be telling you strategies about the revolution. That would be stupid of me to do that. But I'm telling you that people all over this country and Nigerians all over the world have gotten to a point of no return. And we would have to make the sacrifices. I'm telling you, we can be sitting here by analyzing the issue and paralyzing ourselves with analysis about religion, about ethnicity. These things are real, but they will not stand in the way of the revolution that is coming, because hunger don't know ethnicity, insecurity don't know religion, and every other cleavages or division or things that divide us they were created by the same objective conditions that we are going to fight against. Because at the end, when Nigeria becomes a better place, it won't matter where you come from.
But what would you say to those who allege that the political killings are really exaggerated and that they're politically motivated to, make this government look bad?
So somebody is going to tell you that Boko Haram is exaggerated, or the banditry is exaggerated, or the fact that 10 people were killed in Buhari's home state, Katsina, yesterday is exaggerated, or the fact that the daughter of a Afenifere leader was killed on a highway, assassination style, is exaggerated, or the fact that you can't travel from Lagos to Ore without a kidnapper willing you on the road, or the fact that police officers, SARS, are killing people is exaggerated, or the fact that somebody has been detained and courts have asked them to be released and we refuse and reject court position is exaggerated. The country is falling apart. Why are we deceiving ourselves?
We have to take a short break, but I would like to ask you a question.
Yes.
President Buhari says, those who criticize as you are doing are unpatriotic. And he also says, they don't seem to understand the issue. Are you unpatriotic? When we come back, you answer that question. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Still with us in the studio is the presidential candidate of the African Action Congress during Nigeria's 2019 general election, who is now leading a revolutionary movement to take Nigeria back, he says. Before we went on break, I asked you, I said, President Buhari says critics are unpatriotic. Are you unpatriotic? And are you afraid that, now that you are calling for a revolution, and you are saying you will move people to the streets, you will become a subject of special interest for the security agencies, who may decide to just move against you? Because you are challenging the system.
I've been a subject of special interest for 30 years. I became a subject of special interest at the University of Lagos since 1992, and eventually 1993. It depends on where the pendulum is swinging, but I don't think there's never been a time in my life in the last 30 years I was not subject of special interest. My name had been permanently put at the airport as a security risk to this nation for 30 years. There's no point wasting our time discussing whether security agencies are interested in my views or position. They've always known me to be like this. I've been consistent like this. And I'm not worried about how they think about me. I'm worried about how we can save this country and how we can even save the security agencies themselves, because it's obvious that they too are unsafe. They are unable to carry out their activities due to also the handicaps brought upon their work by terrible leadership in the country. You've reached a point in this country where the Chief of Army Staff says that the reason they can't defeat Boko Haram is because soldiers are poorly motivated. And the soldiers are saying, no, you are the one who refused to equip us because of corruption at the highest levels of government. So, and the issue of patriotism, I don't waste time on discussing patriotism. It's a jargon that leaders use as it suits their own agenda. The person who is patriotic in a nation is the person who wants the nation to function, not people who are dragging down the nation and preventing the country from attaining its potential. Those are the unpatriotic people. So, but I don't want to waste my time discussing who's a patriot.
So we have images there of you addressing the march yesterday in Maryland. Can you tell us more about that?
I was there before yesterday. So we had a march, and it was a rehearsal to actually launch our orange hat and to let people know that we'll be doing several other things the next few days, weeks, and months to come until we achieve our total objectives of ensuring that there's first revolutionary consciousness and a physical revolution in this country, because we need it. And like I said, you don't have to worry about me now. You should worry about the country.
Well, you've been on the front line of activism for 30 years, as you've said.
Yes.
So you are aware of the criticism that's made of Nigerians, that Nigerians can be quite resigned, even in the face of poor governance, social issues, lack of infrastructure, just a whole gamut of disasters. We tend to just take a very resigned, God-day position. What is your view of this, and how do you plan to galvanize people?
Well, it is true, but I'm also coming with experience in doing some of these things. You should also accept that Nigerians haven't had the kind of leadership in the revolutionary sector to mobilize them. There are a lot of young people who would rather have a better country than sit around and be watching, a reality TV show that knobs them, or spend their time, watching teams playing soccer that have no bearing on their lives. If you don't provide the leadership, then you should not be blaming a complacent citizen. People can be complacent when they don't have the right motivation to do work. But there's also a case to be made of the fact that over these years, they've also destroyed and dehumanized our people so well or so much that people don't even know what they're entitled to as citizens. But it was the same in Sudan. They rose one day. It was a lady, or a number of ladies that started it in Sudan, and people criticized them. They said, how can women lead a revolution? And that was why they were successful, because they just thought, this is just women. After a while, they get tired. The same thing that happened in Nigeria, where I think they had an 82-year-old leader that has been around forever. He was sick. Nobody ever saw him, but he kept running for election from hiding. And people got tired of it. It has to be that people are tired and they step out of whatever complacency or complacent situations there, or fear, they overcome their fear. Step out one time. Look, Shiites, the Shiites in Abuja.
The Islamic movement of Nigeria.
Yes, the Islamic movement of Nigeria. One day decided that because their leaders were detained and judgments had been given for them to be released, or orders, and the government did not release. They went to the National Assembly. If they had 1 million of them, they probably would have taken over the National Assembly that day and changed the narrative about, popular power. So I'm not saying that I'm going to...
As was the case in Hong Kong.
Yes. So Hong Kong also did it. And all these things were carried out by the same young people who people said were complacent in those countries. In fact, Sudan, as a matter of fact, was a surprise to everyone, because nobody thought, including the president of Sudan, that a day will come that he will find himself in prison, and in a revolution that was planned, executed by women, mostly women, and also medical doctors, right, professionals. So we just need to do what other people do, and as I said, we don't need to be discussing the strategies on air, because the strategies need to be where they belong.
But let's talk about this beret.
Yes.
I'm interested in it. It's orange, but it has also the logo of the African Action Congress,
Yes.
which is like a partisan label.
Yeah.
Are you not concerned that if you try to mobilize other people, they may be reluctant to identify with the AAC? Shouldn't it have been, neutral, politically neutral design? That's one. Two, will it be correct to say that, you are launching this as a way of reaffirmation, considering the fact that in March, some members, the National Executive Committee of the AAC, suspended you and 7 others for 6 months from the party. And then, of course, they went to court. And on Friday, Justice Nyangeko's court, Federal High Court in Abuja, confirmed that your suspension and that of your deputy and others was, the product of a valid process, and that you had also pointedly refused to defend the suit. So is this a way of showing that we are still there, and will it be correct to say you are a factional leader who is still trying to assert himself?
That's incorrect.
Okay.
The reason it's incorrect is that I have been talking about revolution now. As soon as the elections were over, you can go and check my Twitter handle, and you'd have seen that this has been my posture and position. I'm a member of AAC. I'm the founder of AAC. But to address your position on whether others will accept this because it has a logo of AAC, no, you don't have to wear the red beret, the orange beret because of the revolution. Now, you can come with your own logo on it. It's just a symbol of the kind of resistance we have at this time. And to address also your issue about Justice Young, we'll be very, very clear that that was a miscarriage of justice. We defended the suit, but the judge said that my defense was not tenable to him because the lawsuit was filed on May 14. I left Nigeria on May 12th. And when I left Nigeria and I was alerted to the fact that the lawsuit was filed, first they had a show on TV where they said I was suspended alongside with the others you mentioned as I was landing in New York. And when I heard about it, we briefed our lawyers, and the lawyers, I sent them a page of my passport to show that this is the day I left Nigeria. But guess what? The judge would not even allow us to have a CTC of the claims made against us. But he granted a page of my passport to be taken to the Rivers State Tribunal, where they use my claims or counterclaims in his court to frustrate the tribunal case against Wike by one of our members in AAC. So I don't need to wear a red beret to show that I'm the founder of AAC. I don't need to tell anybody that I'm the founder of AAC. You knew it, you followed. I spent a lot of time in this studio during the election, and AAC was formed in August 2018 by myself and other members of the party. But I found
they're accusing you of misappropriation of funds.
Yeah, no, there's nothing like that. In fact, I'm the only presidential candidate, that's smear campaign, presidential candidate to have released a breakdown of all the spending. Both the amount of money I raised and the amount of money that was spent. I released the breakdown a month ago. Not only did I release the breakdown, it's available online, Sowore2019.org, so that if anybody want to challenge the breakdown of spending, the accounting that I made, you can go there and point it out. It's available. So it's just to smear us as leaders that this was brought up. There's nothing like that.
Well, thank you very much.
We raised
Omoyele Sowore
the money and accounted for it.
Thank you very much. You've been able to explain a lot of things, which I think will also be useful to our viewers.
Nigeria, they use computer. The leaders of Nigeria, they use radio where they turn the knob.